few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on and behind the lines, this is your song. Hi.
Gun Channels would like to remind.
Buy things at here. Websites.com.
Some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it.
Some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We're live every weeknight at midnight Eastern to talk about guns for an hour. But I'm the only one here. I'm being corked right now. And this is the results of corking. Just completely abandoned established chats. It's horrible. So let me pause out of there. Pause out of this. Put down my phone down here. Everything's hot. So I don't know. There's nobody out there to give me feedback on audio. I'll just end the show. I've got all kinds of fans running to keep the computer hot or cooled down. It's getting super hot. I don't even want to leave the phone on there. I want to leave the phone over here. And there's GTP out there. So yeah, tonight is kind of crappy. I had a cooler blowout on me, and I have not been able to go over and get a new one yet. So it's pretty hot. In fact, I'm going to get some stuff started up here. See what kind of chat it's going to be tonight. All right, thanks. I got a fan going right next to it, so if that sounds annoying, I'm going to leave it going. There's straws out there. So opening up some stuff here, but actually I'm going to go. Should have done this before I started the show, I guess. I just stop things and start the show, so I'm going to go over and shut the door. All right, now we can get going here. See if anybody else shows up. There's Bob out there. The USB tomorrow. I'll put the link out here if anybody wants to jump into the show tonight. Whew. What temperature is it? It's supposed to be pretty hot right now. No, that's the wrong one. Oh, I'm not even screen sharing. It's 96 out right now at 10 p.m. No, it's not 10 p.m. 9 p.m. 108 today, but it's going to go down to 93 on Monday. So we're going to have a cold streak here. It'll get down to 77 tonight. So it's going to be about 20 degrees cooler tonight than it is right now. I can take that. So let's go over here, and I was going to work a little bit on something, and I'm glad I'm not screen sharing yet because I don't want to show you that stuff. So let's go to create new, and we're going to type it over here. What do I need to do? Museums. All right, so I'm going to go back over here and, well, open recent, and we're dropped a link out there. We'll see if anybody joins in tonight, and if not, I don't know. I was watching a movie the other night and nobody could hear it, so I might just watch a movie. But let's see what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this and this. Is it in here? Or is it? Is it? Is it right here? In fact, I think I just opened up a new one, didn't I? Firearm Museum Tour. I think this is the new one. Oh, this is definitely not a new one. But I need to make ones out of here. So we're going to draw some cartoons. Let's go. So screen share and boom and boom. Ooh. Have you tried out those portable ACs? Oh, I didn't know Never Enough Ammo ones has one. Figures. No, those things cost like $300-400. I would have to put one on a credit card, and my credit cards are still full from going to, going on tours. Mainly going to, I still am paying off the transmission from years ago, and then I'm paying off the Washington, D.C. trip that wasn't really scheduled or funded or anything. I got some funding, the gas and stuff was funded, but all the bills and stuff piled up while I was not doing anything to make any kind of money for like a month. How long was I on the road that time? I forget. But anyway, so no, I have no credit cards to put it on. I'm actually going to have to put this cooler on a credit card. So that's why I didn't do it yet. Anyway, so no, so I haven't tried one of those. Plus, I don't think it would be, I would be too, I don't have that kind of mindset to just blow an air conditioner off into my place. My place, Bob can tell you, is not much different than a mobile home. My place is like a mobile home with brick walls. So it's real shitty on the roof and the doors and stuff, and it would just be blowing all that cold right out. So I would be wasting money. I would be over budgeting. Am I screen sharing? Yeah. I would be spending more than I got. I would be putting on a credit card, and I would be blowing $200 worth of electric bill. I can't handle that. $80 electric bill kills me. I can't handle hundreds of dollars worth of electric bill. But what I get is a fan with water trickles. There's basically like, think of a sponge, like a big sheet of sponge in front of a fan, and they put a water pump in there that trickles water over the sponge, and then it blows air through the fan. And that'll drop it by 20 degrees or something. Anyhow, whatever. So this is Willow Rock, which I need to draw a picture of. And I was thinking I'm going to go with this picture. Maybe I feel like I already did this one. I guess I got ready to do it and never did it. Is that, no, what? I feel like we did this one though. Yeah, what the hell? I did this one. So I don't need to do Willow Rock. So that means I got Willow Rock here already. Kick the crap out of the museums. Got it all nice and tidy over here. Got all these different museums going. Boom, Willow Rock. Oh yeah, I guess I can do our duty after there. So yeah, got all the icons nice, and except for I guess these two, all of them are nice and displaying good. And let's see what else we need pictures of. Rock Island. First one. So, do I have that one on here? Yes, I do. Oh, I already did Rock Island. So, I don't have to do. Oh, look at that. I didn't put it up here yet. So, what in the hell? That's weird. Is it just click into the image? Oh, I know why. I got this thing. Oh, I know what happened. I moved all the pages, so all they can do is go to the first thing. Well, I guess they're going to watch me fix a web page. So I went ahead yesterday and turned a bunch of these, which are set to pages, into posts. So I'm going to figure out how many of these are broke. Probably all of them, because this took a while last night. So I forgot to update these links. So what I'm doing is opening all these in a new tab, just because that's the fastest way to get them all. I don't know if it's not the fastest way. It's a way to get them all open. And then, because these are all just hardwired links, I just created all these. These aren't a dynamic list compiled from a sort of a data set, right? That's what most stuff on something like this is. This is a call to sort a bunch of stuff that has Alabama in it. This here is an array, a display of data based on a call to a database. This, though, is just hardwired. I wrote a bunch of words, and then I linked to things in those words. So I basically did the long way over here. So this one works. This one goes, no, it works. This is a page. So that one works. I can close out of it. Post, I mean, yeah, because I can close out of it. This one is a post. I can close out of it. That's a post. Close, close. This one is not a post. That one's a page. That one's a post. So any of them that are a post, I can, oh, I'm doing it wrong. So I can close all these ones that I know are good, even though they're not necessarily look good. They exist as opposed to being broken. So maybe it's not that I get into any of them last night. It's just that I didn't do the first one because it looks like all of these, maybe 3 of them were broke. All right, so that one's fine. And that one's fine. So this one says it's embarrassing. That doesn't help me at all. This one here is different. So I guess it's just Rock Island that I've got to relink. So here, edit, close, 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 and then go to here, grab that link, edit the link, get rid of whatever's in there, start typing Rock Island, and it'll auto-complete to the different things, and I want the museum. Let's see, why is this thing popping up? I don't know. I don't know why it's popping up there, that's for sure. So now that's changed, and what do you think the other one was? I guess I don't know. It's a little bit update, and I'll go back to the page here. Basically, swamp cooler is what I'm talking about. When you blow water in front of a fan, what happens is the hot air, hot dry air goes past the water, and it loses heat to the water. The water gets a little warmer, and the air gets a little bit humid and moves past there, and some degree less heat because it just lost a bunch of heat to that water. So you can kind of gain some advantage there. And I guess there's evaporation. So as the evaporation is happening, that's where the heat gets lost. It's not efficient because you lose water in the process, so that's not great in a desert. But the cooler part of it works much more effectively than just a fan or something blowing hot air around. Yeah, I guess I have to try to open these until one of them fails. I want to fix that, which is annoying. You wouldn't have to do that on a sort or whatever, like a call, because that's just going to do the same thing if it's either broke or it isn't broke. There we go. Jonathan Browning, that one's broke. I'll just fix it right away. So go in and edit this. Go down to Jonathan Browning. Edit that. Get rid of that whole thing. Go to John. Oh, no, there's no H. Jonathan Browning. And then update. And then go back to view. So now we found one of them. And now the other one is somewhere else. Davis, Cody, Wooden, Pima. Willow Rock. So you know where Willow Rock comes from? It comes from woods, lake, and river. Is that where it comes from? So they took the woods, the lakes, and the rivers. I think that's how they got it all together. And put it into Willow Rock. Just saw that the other day on their Instagram. Oh shit. Boot Hill, Springfield Armory, Dragon Man, Thing 2, Autry, Nra Museum, Los Angeles, Panama, Nra, there it is. Whittington Center. So edit and go down to Whittingham, one here. I don't know if I have to click the whole link or not, but I do just to make sure I don't have to. makes sense. So I'll type in wit. Mary Whittington Center or whatever, and then update. So now that page is good to go. It isn't broken, but that's why it's annoying to have to go in and edit these things. But I want this formatting exactly how I want it. I want it to say the date, the place with the link, the state, and then the number of guns in a regular font, and everything else is bold so that that gives a visual as well as that little bullet point. So I wanted that formatting. Knowing what pieces I got out of these Lego sets, I wanted that formatting as opposed to, well, this formatting, for example. This formatting comes from a sort from the database, and this data is in a database, but I rewrote it here so that I would get it exactly how I want it, just for presentation, really. And for my situation here, where I want to show just the shop or the museums that I've been to. But down here, I was interested in having an unending, I guess, an unlimited list of museums. And if I find a museum like I just did with this one or this one that weren't in the list before, I didn't want to have to reshuffle everything. So this will, if this one was what, 1956, and this one here was 1957. So right, if something came along in 1954, I want it to show up here and not some other slot. The database makes really nice for that. And I can display this. That's what I was doing earlier, is fiddling with this display a little bit, making it look like this as opposed to a list or something else. I went with this because they all kind of fit on the screen pretty good, and you're not necessarily trying to read everything. I would think with this, you're just trying to get to the place, and then you get more information about it. But yeah, so now we did that. We're trying to figure out which ones still need a cartoon, though. I figured out that the AFBI's reference collection is in this massive effing building. Where did this come from? And they're saying that they're going to outgrow this building. What the hell? What does the FBI even need a giant building like this for? Holy crap, that's a giant building. And how come the FBI needs like 1,000 rolls of smokestacks? What are they doing in there? They heating the whole place with coal or some shit, or with wood? That thing's like 10 stories tall. It's ridiculous. And this is from a video that the FBI, they show this picture and they go, and we're about to outgrow this building. What the hell? How big is the FBI? Anyway, so I'm not going to draw that building. Maybe paid for that building. I did that one already. Did that one. Dayton. Didn't do that. Guess I could do Dayton. It's not really a thing, though. Cowboy Museum. Did it. Jonathan. Did it. 45th. Did it. Texas Ranger Hall of Fame. Did it. James Davis. Did it. Cody. Willow Rock. Did it. John M. Browning. Did it. Boot Hill. Did it. Springfield Armory. Haven't been there yet. Dragon Man. I don't know if I want to redo Dragon Man or something. Autry. I haven't done this one. We could do Autry. That's something to do. Oh, I don't even have a picture of Autry Center of the West. That'll be fun. Let's go find the Autry Center of the West. See barbecues joining us. Good evening. There's a link out there. If anyone wants to, then you can draw that same link. Put it out here. Oops.
So did you hear that the rally in PA on Monday got canceled or postponed?
Yeah, no, but I imagine that makes sense. Do you know when it got postponed until?
No date is given yet.
Yeah, well, like I say, it probably makes sense. It turned into chaos more than
Yeah, especially with the way our governor is, he's already anti-gun. Don't need any more excuses for him to try and paint us in a bad light.
So we're going to do the drawing of the Autry Museum. So if you go to LA, which is over here in California, down here in this little church right here. So you got Long Beach is where the big ships come in and stuff. You got the whatever this is called, and then Santa Monica and Malibu, and I think this is where people surf and stuff. And then you come in, there's Beverly Hills, everybody's heard of. There's the Hollywood sign is up here on this hill over here. I guess it's on this hill right here. And then you come down the hill from that Hollywood sign, and we're going to flip over to satellite view now. So you can kind of see the Hollywood sign. It's up on this hill. You come down from the hill, and there's some other hills here. And you get down to the zoo over here, I guess. But then looks like that's a golf course of some sort. This here is that. Well, it looks all shitty in this, but it's all full of water in this picture. But this is the Los Angeles River where they keep filming movies where they're driving around in that giant gutter or whatever. So it's kind of neat because you can just drive. It looks like whenever I was there, you could just drive right into that river or whatever. Anyway, so when I came in, I guess I was driving around over here, and up on the top of this hill is where Terminator comes in. This makes it look really shitty because it's basically looking straight down at a hill, so the streets are all crazy. But up at the top of this mountain or whatever hill is the observatory, where at the end of this road is the observatory where, come on, I guess it's, no, it's not that. I don't know where they can't tell where the hell the observatory is now. It's got to be over here where you can see the sign. Oh, wow, it's way far away. So you, well, that's right. You come out and you come around and then you come up through this crazy, you have to come all the way through these people's houses and stuff. So you have to come through city over here, up to these people's houses, and there's a bunch of signs that say, like, don't drive up here in the middle of the night. We don't want you to up here driving around through the middle of the night. And then you get past their houses, and then you get up on this road for a while. And then you eventually get to this observatory, which is where, I'll go into 3D mode. This is where Terminator comes in at. So Terminator comes in over here. Those kids don't obey the rules or whatever. And I don't know where they were. Over here, maybe? I don't know where they were. They were up here somewhere with their leather coats on and stuff. And that's where Terminator grabs their leather coat. Maybe in here. Oh, I didn't get out over there. I just drove up to this area and drove around and came back down. So from the top of that observatory, we should be able to. This is looking south. That's looking towards L. Oh, that's weird. I thought LA would be over there. Maybe that's looking south then. Yeah, that makes more sense. That's looking south. And if we turn left over here, we're kind of looking towards Arizona. And we're going to look down. Oh, I guess it's over a hill. And we're going to go down. We're going to go over this hill. And then past that golf course. And now we're going to go down. And this is that thing where they film all the movies. We're going to go down, and this is the Autry Center of the West. So if you go into Autry Center of the West, you kind of, this, I don't know what this is, like a restaurant and a gift shop. You walk through here into this courtyard, and you go into the building, and it's basically, you can kind of see these four things. You go into this building, you go downstairs. I think it's into the basement. And underneath of this, in the basement, is all the guns. So right here, underneath of everything in the basement is the guns. This is just some sort of big place to watch movies or something. I don't know what it is. And then I don't know what this is, some kind of other restaurant maybe. So you can drive up front and park in this parking lot. And I think, except for the trees, I was going to say this would probably be the best shot of the place right here. I was going to say, I thought there was some statues. I guess I thought the statues were a little closer to the entrance, but whatever. So I guess that's the picture we're going to take right there. It's about a decent museum. It's somebody's, I forget the guy's name, some rich person's cult museum or cult collection that they gave to the museum. And then the museum they're in Los Angeles, right at the bottom of the hill where Terminator came in at. And kind of at the bottom of the Hollywood sign. There's something else over there that's it's not really far from the take a picture real quick. Print screen, and I'll zoom back out. It's not real far from the what do you call that thing? LA Police Museum. So now that we're back to north being north, I'll just cheat and type it in here. LA Police. I didn't think it was that far. I guess it's kind of far. Because I left there, and then I went down this road, I guess. I went down I must have gone down this road. I thought I was going south, so maybe I went down this road. Or whatever. And then you get over here, and it's just an old police station. So it's, I don't know if we've looked at this one before. It's just it right in the middle of the town or whatever. I don't know what it looks like in that part of LA. And then in 1930, this would have been their police station. All the farther I want to get in. And then you got this parking lot next door, which I can imagine there had to be something else before. You got your sign in front of it there, which is kind of neat. And then in back here, you can kind of tell they got, I don't remember being able to see in here. So I don't remember this part, but this is some sort of old-fashioned armored car or something. And that's like an old cool SWAT van. And this is some kind of, there was all kinds of cop stuff over here in the parking lot. But then underneath of this garage thing in the back, which you can barely see in, it's all kinds, it's like 2 deep. So these are 2 cars deep. There's a helicopter in there, and there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or 11 cop cars in there that are different ages and stuff. And like the paddy wagons or whatever you call, like whatever that like kind of vans were back in the day, are up around the sides here. So it's pretty neat. And then inside there's a jail, maybe down in here. Maybe you can't go into this section. I don't remember, but there's a jail in here, like you go into the old-fashioned jail. The upstairs is where all the cool stuff is, gun-wise. Nothing to see over here. I didn't go over here. We'll come back out, and we already got that one anyway. So we'll close out of this. We'll go back to the Autry. And we'll paste that down. And that's way too big. So go over here, and we'll chop that down a bit. That maybe? We're going to need the whole building, I guess. Everybody's out there being quiet today. Barbecue's in here, but I don't know. Why that? Anybody's, like I say, I made this thing full screen. I should make it shorter, and then I can see what people are saying. Yeah, nobody's saying anything. So we're 29 minutes in. Nobody's watching. I'm not doing this to get famous or rich or nothing. I'm just doing this to have a place to have a conversation. And yeah, nobody wants to conversate. I got work to do. I'll throw the link out there. I'll put the offer out there, and then we'll wrap it up here if nobody jumps in. But boring to just constantly work on 2A projects. And I don't care about growing the channel, and I don't care about entertaining anybody, but I'm confidently down for having a conversation. Let's see.
You want to talk about that thing we had discussed a couple weeks ago, where I was saying how I used to be a FUD and one day had that come to Jesus moment when I realized it?
Oh, sure. What do you mean? Where and what?
We were talking about how a lot of the firearm shops around here just have hunting-oriented guns for the most part. A lot of bolt-action rifles, pump-action shotguns, things like that. And I was telling you, I unknowingly was a FUD, just kind of by proxy, I guess you could say, with the environment that I was brought up in, with the gun culture I was brought up in, and how one day I was at another shop and I was talking to the owner, and I had mentioned something to him, something about hunting. I don't remember what exactly, and he had made the comments where I don't remember exactly what he said, but he got real passionate, and it made me realize, like, oh shit, I am, well, a FUD. And it wasn't anything that I was doing on purpose. I was completely oblivious to it. For me, the big part of guns at that time was hunting. Now, granted, I used them all the time for other reasons and didn't even think about it. And we were just discussing that, like I said, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and you thought that might be an interesting conversation to have sometime.
Right on. I was just thinking about it as you said that. Yeah, I mean that's. It's not like you're a FUD or you're not a FUD. At least there's a way to say it. Like weird feedback now all of a sudden. But when you're growing or when you're learning stuff, you got to learn from someone. So I think that's sort of like that music thing. If you learn jazz, it doesn't mean you're a jazz person, and everything you do, you've got to live with being a jazz person for the rest of your life. You just might have experienced jazz first, right? So if you experience FUDish stuff first, I don't know if that means you're a FUD. Does that make sense? Like you might have experienced FUD stuff first, but as long as you don't get like, I guess, I mean, there's no rule or nothing, but I guess if you're only going to be called a FUD if you only experience FUD stuff and then you get like really worried that anything else exists or something, like if you're going to be real rigid to the idea that they only need shotguns or something, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. There's a definition of FUD, some people think of it as a lighthearted thing. Some people think of it as an insult.
Yeah, let's say I don't see a problem with being called it if you didn't realize it before and then you have that epiphany, like I did. Like I said, I don't remember what exactly was said, but like I said, after this shop owner got, like I said, really passionate, and it just flipped a switch where I was like, oh crap. And I realized, why do you have this idea that guns are just for hunting? At that time I was working armed security, so I used them for work. I loved just cleaning my guns. I would sit down and clean them a couple times a week just for shits and giggles. I mean, it would just be one or two here and there, just pulling them out randomly. The idea of carrying it for self-defense, obviously the hunting. I mean, there's just all sorts of different reasons that I use guns on a daily basis, and it just never clicked with me. And like you were saying, a lot of people find the FUD thing. Some people, take it lightheartedly. Other people, take it as an insult. And I guess my thing with the people that want to serve it out as an insult, try talking to the people who you might call a FUD and say, why do you have those views? You might be surprised that they just never put much thought into it.
That's definitely a thing. Yeah. Don't get discouraged if you reach out and somebody bites your hand, right? Like it's their right to not be mansplained or poked at, but at the same time, I hear you. Like you may find that some people are just like, oh, I didn't realize. It's tough now. I would imagine it's a little tougher now than it was back in the day, because back in the day it was a little easier. You could tell by looking at somebody, oh, you're a hunter or you're a competitive shooter or you're some kind of cop, but everybody had their own kind of look. And nowadays it's just blended more. Plus somebody can have way more experience. You can experience a lot more stuff online than you would have to go and do stuff back in the day. Go to meetings or, meet people at gun shows. I don't know what to, go to a range or something. But you'd have to done a lot more to to get the broadness of the experience you can get now.
Definitely. Like I said, and living in Northwest PA, I don't know how it is in other states, but deer season's such a big thing here. The first day of deer, you'd actually get the day off of school. That's so, like I said, that's the big culture around here. However, in recent years, I would say I've seen a bit of a shift towards more of the self-defense aspect, more of just target shooting in general. And I don't know if that's partly me broadening my horizons after that experience, or if it's just with the I don't know what you want to call it, expansion, I guess, in my eyes, of Second Amendment rights, with I guess a more open conversation, at least that I'm seeing now.
Well, I'm not sure when you say open, like, I don't know what you mean. Or I guess
I guess when I was growing up, it seemed kind of like a taboo thing. Nobody talked about it much. It was you threw your money to the NRA, and what's that?
You're just talking about guns in general?
Well,
like when you didn't talk about Second Amendment or guns?
Well, Second Amendment, and more on the personal defense aspects and things like that. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was about a decade ago. Pennsylvania used to have a duty to retreat, and like I said, about a decade ago, I believe it was, a little bit longer maybe, they took that away and actually came up with a castle doctrine. And I guess, like I said, it just seemed like people they throw their money to the NRA and say they're going to take care of it. And after that castle doctrine came through, it seemed like I was able to see more people talk about things like self-defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's tough to know. Like, I guess you could kind of go by whatever your state group is. So in Pennsylvania, it's no, it's not that. What is it in Pennsylvania? I was thinking the one in Massachusetts. But you would maybe look at an organization like that, or like their forum or something, to see how active or what kind of topics. But it's tough to know if it's like your gun shop, your group of people that you shoot with, like, your hunting group or whatever, if like they all become aware, right? Do they become aware on their own? Not they're going to tell people. So, their immediate group is going to start becoming aware altogether, right? And then that's a dynamic. Or is it the whole state of Pennsylvania got more aware? I suspect it might be a second, but it's hard to say.
Don't know. My general experience is just in my area of the state, but going off of what I saw in my area after that castle doctrine was passed, and again with the whole hunting thing, like I said, the deal was you just throw your money to the NRA and they take care of everything. And I'm sorry on the NRA, and like I said, the castle doctrine getting opened up that conversation, or if it was thing, that's what I noticed in
It must be your internet, but it kind of got garbled there. And that's, I guess, when you're looking at like a state, passes. When did we pass? We passed constitutional carry in 10. You guys, I don't think you have constitutional yet, but whenever you change a law like either open carry or carry, some states are just barely getting their CCW or constitutional or whatever it might be. Whenever there's a change, like there's going to be an awareness that goes around. I'm trying to think now. There was sort of a wave. I guess I did go to gun shop just to look into whatever. When I was young and didn't have money, you go to gun shops and you just sort of have your eyes open and your tongue hanging out and you just look at what's out there, but you don't think about, hopefully you'll jump back in. You just don't think about what you're gonna, you're not buying anything. You're just thinking about what you might buy. And those are the days when we got CCW. So, well, we won't get into what you used to do back before there was CCW in Arizona. There's barbecue. No, now you're back in here. So back then, when CCW happened, there was certainly like a difference in the gun shops. They started to cater to more handguns and self-defense type guns versus there's never been super big competition shooting out here. There's cowboy shooting, but just like a moderate amount of competition shooting, really. There's a lot of marksmanship and bullseye and that kind of stuff, as much as there is tactical type or IDPA or anything. Anyway, so you saw sort of a change in focus, or I guess, I can't think of the word, but anyway, focus on stuff. So that must have changed, the chat at the range, and that would have changed the what's going on at gun shows. And as soon as something happens at gun shows, then all those people who are buying stuff, kind of quicker to react with product at a gun show than they are at a gun shop. Often, as soon as you start to see gun shows kind of change, that was all kind of happening. So that's, that can affect, I guess, is what was disconnected again. It says your device isn't connected, and you weren't, like we didn't see your icon, so I'm guessing your camera wasn't connected, but you are back in here again. But anyway, so like a change in law, state law or federal law or whatever, I guess, can influence, I don't know, the kind of purchases people are making, the kind of taste people have. If you can't CCW, what's the point of having a whole bunch of little guns? As soon as you can CCW, like, oh, snap, I'm going to buy one. Then you're going to buy another one. And then you buy a third one. And then you start having opinions. And then maybe buy a fourth or fifth. And depending on if you keep them or not, depends on if you become a collector. But they're like shoes or boots. Right? Yeah, go ahead. I heard you come back.
Yeah, I'm not. I was having good signal before. Now it just seems to dropped off on me. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, you're back now. It's loud and clear. It's just that, whenever you're not muted, it does get some feedback, I guess, because we hear like a delay and a little soft. It's not like a feedback, like a, what do they call it? Like a, the screech or whatever, like that kind of feedback. It's just when you hear yourself saying something moments after you said it, it does something to your brain, at least for me. Like it screws you up. Like that's how they do that drunk talk thing where you put these things on and it says what you're saying right back to you, like, but a pause, like a lag. And then it makes it so you can't coherently say anything. It's for like, I don't know, any kind of simulations where you need to act drunk or be drunk, but, immediately not be drunk. These things work pretty effectively. I've seen some eye things too that work pretty good, kind of weird prisms that make it so you can't really focus good.
So I've seen like the eyeglasses that they put on people to simulate being drunk.
We had a stage one time at a state IDPA match where you put those glasses on and then you had to engage. It was in a very like, there was a lot of terrain. It was like in a river canyon or a wash, I guess, we're going to call it, a a little bit of a tiny canyon, and maybe 12 foot deep or 10 foot deep or something, but enough that if you're at the bottom of it, you're shooting into like 12-foot wall of sand. So there's almost no danger of shooting up over it unless you really screwed up. And they put the targets maybe 10 or 15 feet in front of you, and then you were on the ground in the sand. I don't remember, probably laying down on your back or something, maybe sitting up a little bit, I don't remember, but you were basically not in a crazy position, but not in a normal position. You were laying down, and you had your gun in your holster, and then you wake up and you start the stage or whatever, and you got these glasses on, and they make it where, I mean, you can see. It's not like double vision, but they certainly screw it up. Like it's you're seeing multiple versions of the thing. It's like looking through a prism or like a really weird piece of broken or clouded up glass or something, and like layered glass that had separated. So you're seeing shadows or ghosts. And that was difficult because, it's enough that you're still hitting center of mass and you're not drunk. So, you've got your clarity of mind. You're looking through these glasses, but you're having to figure it out. And it was a challenge. I mean, it wasn't so bad that you'd accidentally shoot somebody because you were flustered or anything, but I don't know. I forget what those glasses cost. I think everybody asked, because if they were like $40, I'd probably own a pair. They're that good. Have you ever tried them?
When I was in high school, not quite like you were describing. The ones that the state police brought in when I was in high school, they were pretty blurry. Really, definitely, they were enough that it actually threw off your balance.
Yeah, like if you tried to walk, you'd fall over, or you'd yeah. So you didn't really, in this stage that we were in, you didn't really move in the you'd fall over. Or whatever, your equilibrium, I guess, it screws that up.
Yeah, that would actually be really neat to try, though, to take shots wearing those.
Oh, yeah. And like I say, it would have been fun to own a pair so that we could be more reckless than they were going to allow us to be at a match like that. But whatever. I don't know I don't even know. I never really looked them up. Let me try and look them up there. For some reason, I thought they were like hundreds of bucks. Do you call them drunk glasses?
You would almost think that they'd be fairly cheap by now.
That's true. The ones we had were more than just a pair of goggles like this. They looked more like a pair of sunglasses or something.
Yeah, that's the pair that I tried on, was like a pair of sunglasses too.
$20. That ain't bad. Let's see if that's oh yeah, they don't cost much. I think the ones we had were more like this. At least certainly more like this than this. Maybe not as bulky even as that. I mean, they look different. They didn't look like welding glasses or nothing. They were more like glasses, but maybe they were a little bit like this because they fit over your regular glasses. Anyway, it probably depends on if you buy ones that are like for cops, where they don't have to worry about a budget and they need to wear them like every single day, training classes using them, or like these $16 where they just emulate it and you get the point across. But yeah, you can get them for fairly cheap. You could probably make them. It can't be that hard to figure out what's in there.
Probably just be able to take a couple different lenses, and without them having the proper offset, they probably blur themselves out.
Yeah, like a polarized lens and then another polarized lens fighting with it, or like going the wrong way or whatever.
Kind of curious if anybody's ever bought those to try and train themselves to do things while they're drunk.
Well, I don't think it was to be so much like drunk as to simulate an issue. So you could be like, maybe you're groggy or fell off of something, like something happened to you and you're temporarily mixed up, or lightheaded. Maybe there's some kind of like gas issue. Maybe you're on a plane and they've disabled the oxygen or something, high altitude. That happens a lot.
That'd be kind of interesting too. Go to a shoot where they hook you up to laughing gas or something. Just that way your mental capacity is a bit impaired. I'm not sure if that'd be the safest thing, but it'd be different.
And that one wouldn't work because you'd be like impaired more likely. But there's got to be something. I don't know. No, I think the closest thing is those, or like I say, those. I haven't seen them used in training where you use the, what do you call that thing, where it talks back to you or whatever. But I have seen that exists, and I don't know what it's for. I think it's for people that are messing with you when you're doing a speech or something. I think that's what it's for, or maybe like a ride or something. Like you send that back out so people can't chat. I don't know. I don't know.
You talking like a jammer?
No, well, not so much a jammer as like a thing that just might screws with your head, because it's really just saying what you said back to you at a different time. Like just, so it's mostly I've seen people using it as a demonstration. Like you can't, that this is something that screws with you. Or I've seen it happen accidentally while you're doing something, right? And it just, you get that weird feedback. But I'm trying to think of like an actual applied use. I don't think I've actually seen an applied use of it.
I'm trying to think, but I can't think of anything myself. But I know what you're talking about.
They make stuff for like riots where you get itchy or makes you like thirsty. There's like things like that, but I guess I haven't heard one that sounds like it would be a version of white noise or something almost that you might send back to a loudspeaker. It would be more of a white noise thing though. But you should be able to do that, I would think, is send some sort of a scramble, like a defeating scramble, like something that doesn't allow a message to get out. We think we could do that with computers by now.
So I remember watching History Channel. This is years ago while we were still in Iraq. They were showing some technology that was being developed to pinpoint where gunshots were coming from for the soldiers in Iraq. Do you think after these riots and stuff, we could see technology like that be implemented in these bigger cities where they can pinpoint if a gunshot is fired, like in Louisville, where they shot that barbecue shop owner?
Yeah,
If
we've
they,
already had it. There's, I've heard them talk about it before. They can. At first, I knew they had it, and then I listened to a radio show where they talk about it. It was like around the 4th of July one year, I think, and it was basically they implemented it for that. So that, well, they implemented it for two things: for 4th of July, so they can listen to fireworks, and then of course just for the rest of the time, so that they can listen for gunshots or whatever. If they hear a gunshot, it can coordinate, triangulate where it comes from, because they have effectively just ears all around town. And I'm guessing if Tucson has it, other towns can have it. It might, be more or less effective, I guess, depending on if it's a big town or something, I guess. But if Tucson has it, it must be at least practical. But anyway, there's a bunch of towers around that listen all the time. And then when something happens, they triangulate. And at first I thought, whatever, because car backfiring and all that, or just a loud noise. But according to this thing I listened to one time on a radio interview with the police station, or whoever runs it, they were saying that they can definitely tune it to be, like, if they want to listen to backfires, they can listen to backfires. They can hear where every backfire is. And if they want to listen to gunshots, they listen to gunshots. If they want to listen to something else, they listen to something else. Because it's all about, when you see whatever they call it, the waves, the sound waves on a oscilloscope or some sort of a sound meter where they look like, waves or that hourglass shape on a bar. They have a shape. They just look for that shape. They know what gunshots sound like or look like compared to another noise, and they can look for those. And it doesn't matter how loud or soft it is, because that's what the software is about is list. If one hears it really soft and one hears it really loud and one hears it in the middle, they just do the math and really quick know where pretty much where it came from. So they don't care about volume. All they care about is what shape the sound is. And according to them, they can, I guess what would be different is like if you came up with, you know, a different sounding gun, I guess, or like a different sounding device that made noise, that might screw with them or might not be picked up. Oh shit, I just told a bunch of evil geniuses how to take over the world now.
Now, those ones that you guys have in Tucson, are those just stationary poles? Because
Yeah.
the ones that I was watching on the History Channel, I think they were actually being designed to actually go onto the Humvees.
Oh, I'm sure they do there because they're going around and doing stuff. But this is sitting on it, and they're just sitting there because, and that's got to make it way more precise too. When they know this pole is here, period, right? Like they know where those poles are from each other, and it's not a GPS involved at all, right? It's just boom, we know where this pole is.
Yeah, it's kind of like when the FCC is trying to triangulate somebody's signal that's illegally using a ham radio or a CB.
So that ain't the FCC. The FCC could, but they would probably just ask hams, and hams do that anyway because that's like what's fun for them. That would be like if there was a troll being a real jerk to like a Pro 2A little girl, and everybody was like, nope. It's like in ham. Like if a ham is out, somebody's out there being a jerk, all the hams are just going to help they're just going to do the FCC's job for them. More than the FCC even knows the hams are going to narc on them.
Let's say you can actually own a ham radio without a license. You just can't talk on it, right?
Oh yeah, you can listen to it and do whatever you want. It's just that it's just when you push the mic. And honestly, nobody's going to care too much. It's just especially if it's an emergency, then there is no rules. So you can, there's still rules, but nobody's going to care at all if you're saving somebody's life. But if you're just like, hey, Bob, like nobody's going to care. If you're out there being like, doing, I don't know, just picking up the mic, when you know that there's something that happens every day at 6 o'clock. So at 5:45, you just go there and pick up the mic so that it screws with whatever they were trying to do at 6 o'clock. That's how you're going to piss them all off, right? Like if you just exist, or if you're just out there talking to your friend in the middle of nowhere, no one's going to care. They're going to care, but they're not going to care.
Yep. Let's say, I've actually, when I was driving truck, I heard about a truck driver. I can't remember 100% where it was. It was New York or Philadelphia or something. Anyways, he was going past one of the big airports, and apparently he had I think they call it a lanyard, but basically, from what I understand, it really boosts out the power that you can produce with your CB and whatnot, and he was able to tap into the airport signal somehow, and I guess he made it about 3 more miles down the road, and he was getting pulled over and was in a whole world of trouble.
Oh yeah, messing with the airport, that's probably a whole different thing because I'm sure they have, I don't know, like I said, it's technically FCC, but yeah, I'll bet you they have stuff because they're able to track a plane, like if a plane goes down or something happens, they got whole different kinds of radios. And they're, the same thing, they're in a place, like they know their radios are here, period. Like there's no questioning the altitude and whatever, that if they pinged off of here, or if they got a hit there at that time, that's like, you can't get a more precise measurement. That's the airport. But that would have to be because that's kind of knowledge. That's kind of primary knowledge that airports are kind of off limits or separate rules because you're messing with the types and stuff.
Yeah, let's say I was watching a video the one time where a guy for the FCC was actually trying to find somebody who was using a radio illegally. I don't remember if it was a CB or a ham, but he was actually demonstrating how they'll go park in one spot, pick up the person's signal. After they do that, they'll go park in another spot, pick up the signal again, and then park in the third spot, get it all triangulated, and they got them down to like a block. And then once they got that down, they fine tune it and just do it all over again. Just pretty neat.
Yeah. And that's what we would do when we were little kids in Civil Air Patrol. When the plane goes down, a little thing happens and it makes a signal. So it's all about basically triangulating like that. And well, for the most part, it would be like in a car, right? You drive here, drive there, because you got to get like miles apart to be able to see for real, right? If you just walked over here, it would be just a slight degree difference. So if you go drive 2 miles over there, you actually get an angle that you can, it's like it turns into an arrow, like you can see where you're going instead of just, go east. Okay, shit. Now you know to go east and north a little bit. But anyways, that part was neat. We'd only kind of ever watch over people's shoulder, though. Of course, the adults were doing it all. We were just sort of experiencing it. Or I should say, the older kids, not like the actual adults were doing it.
Say, I think my cousin finishes up Civil Air Patrol this year. He's been doing it, I think, since he was like 12.
Oh, yeah, it's like scouts or something. It's just a matter of how far you want to go. You're in sort of like you can be like a sergeant for a long time or whatever, like your stripes. And then if you want to keep going as a kid, you can get into being an officer. And then, you can enlist and go into the Air Force or something. But if you want to keep going, even after like you're out of high school, people will come back and be like adult leaders. But in Civil Air Patrol, that's typically people that have been in the Air Force, I think.
Yeah, I think he's actually an officer now, if I remember correctly. I'd have to ask him again. I actually thought about getting him on my channel and doing like a little interview with him, have him talk about the Civil Air Patrol.
I'd encourage it. It's a neat thing. I really like it. And it's like scouts or something, like just it's the Air Force, but it's like going into the military. There's more than one job in there. So if you don't like this or you don't like that, you're not necessarily doomed to only have to do that or that. There's quite a bit of stuff to do in there. And if you've got a squadron that is okay with that, then there's lots of stuff to explore. And then you come out with, if nothing else, a knowledge of drill and how to march around, and hierarchy, which is most of basic training, is just getting getting accustomed to the military, knowing how to walk around the right way and knowing who to salute and that kind of stuff. Civil Air Patrol teaches you all that stuff before you're out of high school. So when you get into the military, while everybody else is running around trying to figure out who to salute and what this means and what that means, you're completely comfortable with all that. You're probably in charge of everybody else, because everybody I knew that was in any kind of ROTC or anything, because we knew how to march already and we knew how to teach other people how to march, we're done. We're already the bosses of everybody. So instead of having to experience everything for the first time, you're learning how to expand on what you already know, which is, like if you watch MASH, it's like being like radar clinger. Like, you can start doing that kind of stuff while everybody else is just, in Full Metal Jacket, getting yelled at by a drill instructor. You got yelled at by some kid in high school when you were a little kid, and you're past all that. You're not even fazed by that stuff anymore. So it's totally worth it if you're planning on going in. And if you're not, you just learn a whole bunch of skill sets that you get. I'm not going to say it's the same experience as basic or anything, but you certainly get a bunch of knowledge that's useful, just in life or whatever, and knowing how teamwork works. And you get to learn the bureaucracy of the military, definitely. At least for us in Civil Air Patrol, we were around Air Force bases constantly, even though had nothing to do with nothing. You kind of have a pass to get in and go anywhere you want. And most of the time, if you're adult people are worth a shit, they know what they're doing is trying to get you experience. So they're going to take you to wherever they possibly can. So you get to see some really neat stuff as a kid, kind of a fly on the wall, and learn a lot of stuff that, like I say, if you never go into the military, you can still appreciate, a lot of what it's like to just deal with that bureaucracy or see the scale of everything. I've worked in some big companies. I've worked for Microsoft and AOL. AOL wasn't that big, but I worked for Microsoft, and it was big at the time. Windows 98, Windows Millennium, so that era. And the government's massively bigger compared to them. Totally different than working in any company. And anyway, so you get to kind of experience that in Civil Air Patrol. I should say kind of. You definitely get to experience it.
Yeah, he ended up being really bummed out because a couple of years ago he had surgery on his ears. He's always had some hearing problems, and they were trying to actually repair them, so he wouldn't have to wear hearing aids or anything anymore. And they ended up messing up the one ear, and he lost all hearing in that. And so, because that's all he's ever really wanted was to enlist, and he's not going to be able to.
Yeah, that's certainly frustrating. And when you're young and there's no way to appreciate that, but it obviously means he was meant to do something else, right?
Yeah, that's what his dad and I keep trying to explain to him. He's got other options, and just because he can't do the military thing, there's other like-minded things that he can do, whether it's something in the medical field or not sure exactly what he could do in law enforcement, just again because of the whole hearing problem. But there's obviously some options there for him.
Well, military is a little bit weirder in the respects that, I guess, for strategic reasons, if for some reason everybody's got to get called up, everybody's got to be able to get in a truck and go somewhere and, be able to run upstairs or whatever and do whatever things they want you to be able to do physically. But military almost never has that, unless it, or I'm going to say police or something like that, almost never has anything like that, except for the actual dudes who have to do that kind of crap. But there's always going to be other stuff in a law enforcement, like other jobs to do that don't require anything or anything. In fact, it's the other way around. They probably have, if he's got any kind of issue that makes you unique, then you've got more potential than ever in 2020 to get a job. You know what I mean? Like, you're certainly not going to be discriminated against. I'm not going to say you're going to get a job because of anything, but you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get discriminated because of it.
Yeah, and say, well, his idea after the military thing kind of went down the drain for him was basically he wanted to be a patrolman, and I was like, I'm not sure how that's going to work out for you if you get into a scuffle or something. Now your hearing aid falls out, you're SOL. I told him, I was like, you need to go to local police departments, talk to chief of police. That actually one of our close family friends is a chief of police in one of the local townships. I told him, go talk to him and say, if somebody came with these issues, what would you say to them, or what would you possibly suggest? I don't know if he's ever followed up with it, though.
Well, another option would be to follow that chief of police that you know around until he does something. And as soon as he does something, get a picture of him doing it, and then you got a job doing whatever you want.
I say it might actually be easier to do than you think, and say, because he's also corrections officer at the county jail. So if you can't catch him in one act, you can probably catch him in another.
Yep. Eventually, you got your job. It seems like it's super strange today, but I'm dealing with it because I got no real care. It doesn't really matter what this looks like. So there. So now we've got a drawing of that museum, and now I can start the colorings of it. Whoa. That. No. How about that? What is this? Oh, this is the Nra Museum. That's why that's popping up. See Pants out there, Patriots out there, Squelch Box. I don't remember what that was. Was that the thing that was the blaster? I don't remember what the Squelch Box was. I remember hearing about Squelch Boxes. Uh-oh, what am I doing? now we've got a bunch of silence again. So yeah, that was definitely a topic to talk about there for a bit. I thought about I got kind of like a couple of lists around that I've considered like adding to and then making them or using them as some sort of like topic lists over here. Back in the day, we would do things like we had a little spinning wheel, like a game show or whatever. There was some website out there that let us put this little spinning wheel on a site and then on a page, and then we put a bunch of topics into there. And then whenever it got into just a chat like that everybody was bored at, they could just spin that wheel and have a topic to chat about, or just keep spinning the wheel until they found the topic they wanted to talk about. But like I said, I'm not really trying to force nothing here. I don't really care if people show up or not. But I figure if people show up, I'll give them a place to chat without obligation or whatever. But aside from saying that every once in a while, I don't know what else to do to keep it going. Need some kind of robot host.
So, what do you think of 2A rallies either happening or being canceled or postponed in the wake of all these protests and riots?
Obviously, in the middle of chaos and craziness and confusion or emotion or whatever you want to call it, like this isn't the time to have one anyway. This would just be confrontational, right? So they kind of have to be. It sucks or whatever, but they were going to be postponed because of this flu or whatever too. So it's not like we're kind of screwed this year, or we have become kind of screwed. I don't want to say we were doomed to be screwed, but this ain't the. What are you gonna? You can't really fight. You know, the situation. The situation exists.
So I thought I heard Nebraska's still having one early next week, I think it is.
Well, I haven't heard anything but a Nebraska one. So
I'll have to double check.
I looked there also. In fact, I looked for the one from. I was trying to do a calendar, trying to see where stuff is, and there's that supposedly a second one, even though there was only going to ever be one. Now there's going to be a second one in DC, and what, a couple of weeks ago there was like the push to get the word out. Hey, put it on your calendar. It's still going to happen, right? And I looked around and I couldn't find those posts, and I only found one thing that had a date for it, and I could have sworn it was in September or something. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like the wrong date. But since I can't find anything else to compare it to, I just have to assume it's the same date. But anyway, so that rally, I don't know if it, I mean, am I looking in the wrong place, or if it something got changed or something?
Do you know when they were talking about having it?
Last year it was on November 2nd. Oh no, I think it was supposed to be. It was going to be a different month, and I thought it was going to be earlier. I guess October does sound right then. But I only seen one thing for it, and it said it was going to be on October 24th or something. So if that's correct, it'll be in October.
And say, because if I can get a little bit of heads up on what it is, I can try and track down somebody to try and get them to drive me down to it.
In DC?
Yeah, DC is only probably about an 8-hour drive from me.
Yeah. I don't know. I would like to see what one would be like without the stupid sports game happened. But I just don't have it. I mean, that's a long drive. So I would definitely not want to do it quickly like I had to do it last year. But, man, I don't know. Anyway, that's one of the reasons I was scheduling or trying to figure out stuff on the schedule to figure out what's possible, where things are, and what's happening still. So the other side of it is if, how useful it's going to be / is it, necessary or unnecessary to go to it kind of thing. And that's where, I don't know if there's an answer to that really. it would be certainly neat to go. I mean, somebody will have to cover it, so it'll be neat to see if it turns into something. Like, is it what's the thing? Like Woodstock, where it was, the one time and that was it. And if it would have happened every year, it would have been different, right? It would have just been the first year of Woodstock, but instead it's Woodstock because there's only the one. That makes sense. So, you know what I mean? Like, if does it turn into something that's epic, or does the second year just make it seem like, oh, we shouldn't have done a second one? And you can't learn that without going to it, I don't think. I guess you could listen to people that.
I'm hoping it could end up being something that's epic. I think that's another thing, though, is just trying to get the word out there about rallies. I know news coverage wise in my area, when there's a Second Amendment rally down at the state capitol, we don't ever hear about it. And people around here are completely oblivious that they're happening.
Well, had in the past, and now we've got, now we're gonna, what are we gonna call it? Are they gonna call it the Black Lives Matter protests, or whatever they're gonna end up calling this phenomenon or whatever? All rallies are gonna be called protests, I think, or at least they have the potential. You know what I'm saying? Like, now that's our new framework. Now people know this can happen. Now they got a new thing to be afraid of. So things that would have happened because we were peaceful. We never caused no problem at a 2A rally, like ever, right? Ever. So why would they ever look at us? Now that they're afraid and they're looking at things like this, and they're like, wait, what? Guns? All of that I'm scared of, and guns? You know what I mean? Like, who knows how they're going to react to that?
You gave me an idea there. So if all these rallies were changed to being called protests, do you think that would be a benefit instead of, because to me rally has a connotation of you're trying to just rally your base, but what if instead of it being a pro 2A rally, it's a anti-gun protest?
You mean anti-infringement?
Or good God, did I? Wow. Yeah. Anti-infringement protest. Holy cow.
So, I don't think that's bad. No, I think the people that are protesting are not happy, and they've decided that they don't want to be associated. They want to see the thing change, right? They've been told that the system is not working for them. They have not been explained. No one's ever said to them that, the way that the world works is there's this giant rock that flies through space, and a whole bunch of these mammals that live on it think that just happens, like no big deal. There's a whole shit ton of rocks in space with mammals living all over them, and a whole bunch of other people think that happened with some intent, with some reason, right? So you've got all these people that live on this rock, and at some point in their civilization, they started wailing on each other. They figured out that bigger ones or smarter ones can beat the shit out of weaker ones or girl ones or baby ones or whatever horrible things they figured out. And then not decades, eons went by, and the humans, the mammals changed, but the situations didn't or whatever. And then at some point in time, they created governments and languages and all this, and then time kept going, and they were still mean to each other, and then cycles started to break. And I might be crazy, and I might be one of them stupid ass Americans, but I'm pretty sure those cycles didn't break when England was colonializing the world and conquering it out of one little fucking island and making everybody speak their language. And then it didn't happen when the different other countries went out and changed people forcefully to their religions or whatever and squelched out other religions. But when this country, who got sick of all that shit, came over here and like traded and bought land off of people, and not saying it was comfortable or perfect, but they basically bought land and tried to live with what they earned. I think it was that country that said, fuck no. You know, they didn't do it perfectly, but they kind of said, women can vote, and we're not all, we don't get to just be mean to each other. We all got the same, you know, core value. And it doesn't matter who gave us rights. We acknowledge that the government can't touch them. And we acknowledge that the individual is the first. And because of that, we freed and, you know, and untied or unchained, you know, just their entire history of the way mammals are. And they've never been taught that. And instead, they're going to say that this country is the oppressive one. That's messed up. Like, the real deal is, I think, what I just explained. So I don't, you know, I think there's just a bunch of people aren't paying attention and are getting pissed or whatever. So they're deciding that this is, you know, they'd rather see nothing. I think people think that lack of police is Eden or something. Like, they think that when you remove the police, that all of a sudden everybody's nice to each other, or that, you know, there's, I don't know. I think they think that the common, what's the word? Like the level, the equilibrium is pleasantness. That it isn't just everybody out for themselves and chaos and, you know, rocks and grass and fire and maybe animal skins or something. But, like, you know, you don't have much when there's nobody comfortable enough to start up a crop or a business or any kind of tool manufacturing or anything. Like, it gets pretty bad pretty quick. So I don't think protest, I got big on that one, but I don't think protest has anything to do with what we're trying to do personally.
Well, what I meant by that was just it's going to be the same thing, but the name change. Do you think it could drum up more support?
We're here a lot. When you say protest, you're saying this whole thing's worthless and we need to change it. When you say rally, it's like this is a system that works, and we're here to, you know, to, what's the word, like, use it. Like, we're here to be part of that system that works. When you're like rally, or when you're like protest, to me that's like saying, that's the same as saying we're not happy with what the status quo is and we want it to change. We're looking for interpretation of the system to line up with what we're looking at. I don't think we want no system.
Well, I'm not saying no system, but things like NFA. Are we happy with there being an NFA, or do we want to try and fight against that?
Well, of course, but I'm just saying, like, that doesn't mean I don't want a government, or I don't want the United States because I don't want the NFA. Like, that's just a piece of the NFA. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. It's just a bad time to whatever, because right now you got to make a big ass difference between protester and rioter. And I'm trying to talk about a subtle difference between protester and rally. You know, like, there's big difference between protest and riot. And there's a subtler difference, I think, between protest and rally. But I think it's just a negative, positive. Protest is like, I'm unsatisfied and there's a problem, where rally is like, let's get people on board. Like, let's get people working together.
Yeah. Basically, I was just wondering if you thought it would make a difference in any support. Would we see more people fall off if it, you know, was changed to protest, whether it was by
protest or whatever, some sort of, you know, that what you would end up with is a bunch of people who want to yell and scream and expect things to be different. Right? What happens at a protest? Does anybody go to a protest with solutions except for Maj? Like, most people go to just be upset and to voice their opinions or whatever. I don't know. So that's, I think, what you just with the words convey or whatever, you'd attract a bunch of people that were just satisfied and wanting to vent and complain. They're there to protest. Like you say, a rally is more of a constructive positive. So yeah, I think you're going to attract people. Well, from our rally, we attracted more people that were there either with actual constructive projects or given lip service, understood what a project is compared to a complaint, right? That kind of thing, where you call it a protest, you're just going to get people that are mad and angry. And they might, you know, you get a bunch of people that are mad and angry, they're going to agree on being mad or angry, but they're not going to agree on what to do about it. I don't think.
So essentially, you're thinking we would lose people that we do want there that would normally show up for a rally and gain more people that we really wouldn't want there who are possibly going to create more issue.
I don't know about that. It's just that of what works. I mean, what are you doing rally for the PR, or is it for the opportunity to network and collaborate? Right? Do you do a rally so that everybody gets to DC so that they can take pictures with each other and go home? Or does everybody get to the same place on the planet at the same time so that they can brainstorm or do whatever the next is, right? So if your goal is just to go there and get mad and give people relief and then whatever, you know what I mean? Like, that's the difference. So I don't know if it's people that you want there or don't want there. I'm just saying, like, people that are motivated versus people that have given up and are just yelling about it.
I guess my idea behind going to one is to make my presence known. Obviously, I'm just, an ant on the mound there, but obviously, if you got an infestation of ants, that draws the attention of the homeowner. So the idea of going there and each of us saying, hey, this is what we support, this is what we want. I guess in my head, in a way, it's kind of a protest to the government saying, hey, don't trample on our rights. And by no means am I saying to change it from rally to protest or anything. I just wasn't sure when you had said, any rallies or anything that we see after this are probably going to get labeled as protests. If, like I said, wasn't sure if you thought that would actually be a benefit or a hindrance.
Oh no, they already don't agree or understand our position. They're shown by their unwillingness to pay any attention to the position, that they're not interested in the position or, like, learning any of the nuance at all, or trying to, even if they're not interested, they're not trying to eliminate or offer some assistance to the conversation or the debate by even getting a rudimentary knowledge so that they can offer communication. Instead, they just look for sound bites and divisional shit. So yeah, there's nothing about calling it. I mean, you're talking about effectively the same thing. A bunch of people standing in front of a building together, in enough size or enough frequency, or not really the volume, I don't think, but the number of people, and as often as they're there, is an indication to the representatives that there is a voice here, and it's loud enough that these people efforted to get to this part of the continent. Because that's a lot of people or whatever. So if those people are out there yelling and screaming and pointing fingers, and then those people are out there saying we're in solidarity, which is more effective? Which has more credence to the representative? The people that seem disorganized and upset, or that have efforted to get there or whatever, true, but they seem upset and they want something from you, or the people that understand the system and are demanding you do your job, and are there to, I don't know, like I say, solidify that their numbers exist. I don't know. I think the rallies just got more, I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely something interesting to ponder on, because on one hand, I want to say, everybody being solidified and whole like that, demanding that, they do their jobs, you would hope would be what grabs their attention, but obviously it doesn't. But at the same time, you don't want to say, a bunch of shouting and pointing fingers is what's going to make the difference. One, I don't think it will. Again, they're going to look out their window, say, oh, well, they're disorganized, big whoop, and close it. But at the same time, it almost makes me wonder, would they see that and go, oh, wait, they're upset. They're not just, here in solidarity. They're actually, well, would it appear to them that we're fighting amongst each other or that we're just upset is another thing.
We don't have enough votes at all to give them that, to get that kind of attention, I don't think. So they can do it. I mean, I don't think they. I mean, even if they can tell that kind of stuff, I don't think they're going to bother. I mean, they'll look out their window or whatever, or they'll have an aide look out their window. But I can't imagine they look out the window every day and ponder. Some of them might occasionally, you know what I mean? But I don't know. Do we want our reps constantly looking out the window? Because there's got to be something happening every day. So we want them to have some discretion or whatever. We do these things there, but we don't. I hope we don't expect them to come out and respond every time something happens in front of them out of some obligation, because then we're just paying to have a Walmart greeter. We're not paying to have a representative anymore. We're just paying to have somebody who's at the bidding of anybody who understands a bureaucratic process. So to some extent, have a realistic expectation what you're there for. And again, if you're going to go to all the trouble of creating something at a national level, I think it costs tens of thousands of dollars to get a permit to have people show up on the lawn of the Capitol of the United States. If you're going to do all that, do you want to do something constructive, or do you just want to get a bunch of people that want to gripe, right? And if they're just going to gripe, what are they going to do? They're going to go home and go, man, we had the biggest gripe session ever, and it was great, right? Or you want them to go home and go, that was constructive, and I met people that are doing different things or better things, or things left-handed instead of right-handed, and I can't wait to try that at my range or my whatever. What's more effective? When people go home from a rally, are they excited and are they re-energized? I personally can tell you, yes. When I come home from a protest, I don't know. When I came home from the anti-Trump, anti-gun protest with 18,000 people, I felt sort of empty. I felt like, wow, a lot of people got manipulated or whatever. Like, I wouldn't want to go to a rally where it was called a protest and it was just a bunch of people who were mad. And what the hell are you mad at? Like, the situation? Are you mad at the clouds? Are you mad it's about to rain? Or do you understand it rains sometimes and you get a roof? Life isn't always perfect, and it's unrealistic to think it's always going to be perfect. People are allowed to have different points of view. Just getting mad about a circumstance is, you're right, but what I'm saying? I'm just thinking that when you're talking about gathering people at the national level, they're just not looking to just get people upset or just accomplish a pitch session.
So I had this idea just now. Well, more of a question. You're going to be the one that would know, I'm sure. Has anybody tried to do like a internet rally? And when I mentioned this, like one that is monthly.
No. So there's the two-way social media rally, which is this one guy on Instagram. I think it's just one guy. And then there is Every Second Matters, which isn't a rally, but it's a monthly thing. So that's about the two closest things. The online rally was more of like, I think it was only done it once, and it was more of like, hey, how about everybody gets together and what we'll do is write our congressman. Except he scheduled it for, I forget what day, someday in December. So was that Declaration of Independence Day? I think it might have been Declaration of Independence Day. So like the day that the Declaration was signed, which is a Sunday. So, okay, I understand the concept, and I understand that, focusing on a date or revolving it around a date, but come on, Sunday, really?
What if we, well, when I say we, just somebody in the gun community put together a channel where every month we had a rally and they got some spokespersons come on there, touch on some bullet points, things like that, and then we could also share rallies coming up. If you can get there, awesome. People can every month go jump on there, listen to people talk like they would at a rally, and try and read.
All right, you're breaking up pretty good, so I'm going to say, why don't you jump back in and out? Because what you're saying is valuable, but it's literally breaking up bad. Because it's probably just your internet. I don't think it's your computer. I don't know if you could hear me during that.
Yeah,
But,
I can hear you.
Yeah, you kind of skipped, so it was not just coming in not good, but it was like skipping, so we missed big pieces.
Okay. So my idea is if we had a channel or something where everybody that is interested in rallies and whatnot once a month can go, and we get different speakers each month. Figure there's 50 states. If we can get a speaker from each state throughout the year, to be so we have representation for each state. So that's what, 4 speakers a month coming on there. Say they do a 15-20 minute speech. We got everybody on there for about an hour, and then afterwards we say, hey, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Arkansas have rallies coming up this month. If you can get there, awesome. And these are the dates, and try and inform everybody that way.
Okay, so I mean, the idea obviously is fine. Like I say, there's a guy on the internet who did something with the same name. We've done something with a similar concept with Every Second Matters. It's like anything. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I guess it's like you can have a great idea, but you can't make people participate. I think that something like that. Something like that would be useful, but it's just that I don't know how to say it. Like, to get people interested over time is the thing. You can have the great idea, you can set it up and everything, unless there's like a fight happening that we're all scared of. I see what's happening. Unless there's a fight that we're all scared of or something, then people are interested, for a while. I don't want to shit on it. I mean, it's a worthwhile thing. And I mean, the way you described it right there, I would think having it done with something like, some of the projects that already have national reach or have, people in the different states, involve them or something. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to shit on it, but it's not. It's not unrealistic. It's just tough to get people to want to care when it's not important to care. Does that make sense? Like when it's not necessary to care.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Like how everybody went into that Trump slump after Trump was elected. They thought everything's going to be fine and dandy, and they stopped caring.
Well, gun owners, if you're hanging around with me and you're looking at people that hang out here, like that's a different type of gun owner than like typical. So like if you're typical gun owner, it only gives a shit about this stuff, when they have to. And as soon as they don't have to, it's boring and they're not interested. So it's not so much like you're saying Trump slump, is more like just as a community or whatever in general, it's just got its ups and downs. We're just talking like always. People are just not interested. It's sort of like anything legal. Like nobody gives a shit. I don't care about my taxes unless I have to give a shit about my taxes, right? Like, I just don't even think about it. A lot of people it's not interesting. This isn't interesting. Nobody wants to deal with this stuff. It's just that some people, I don't know what the hell's wrong with us. Some people just are willing to give a shit about this boring ass shit because, I don't know, nobody else is going to do it. And just because nobody wants to do it doesn't mean that you can ignore it. Something's going to happen with it. If we ignore it, then the other side takes over.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of neat, just on the basis. how many people do you think show up at rallies throughout the year for all 50 states?
Well, it depends on what year. Again, it's not a
Oh,
consistent
true.
people and revolvers. I've done it with Hillary about to be elected. There's only, and then we've only had one set of history. So there's only been so many circumstances that we could have even experienced so far. But anyway, so is it the year that Hillary was about to be? Was it when Obama was talking about executive actions? Like, when are we, talking? That's all. Like, every time I click one of these,
Yeah, right after you said that, I was like, oh, yep. I don't know. Like I said, that's just an idea that popped in my head. I at this point, even if I wanted to try and put that together, I wouldn't have the resources to. But I just, like I said, I wasn't sure if it's ever been done.
Well, we tried to make it matter. So I've talked about it, at the end of 2013, there was this, kind of grassroots resistance, like just everyone, it was an uprising. It was like everyone just took a breath and stood their ground and said no. And politically, the world heard that and went, whoa, all right. And then left us alone for a bit. And that was pretty tough because we expected to lose it all. With Obama standing up in front of a friendly Congress after the worst thing ever, everyone can acknowledge that was the worst thing ever. And that, when they say like freedom is dangerous or horrible or, there's bad parts to it, that's the bad part right there. Like, that was horrible. Nobody wants that. But at the same time, communists don't win because that guy was horrible. And all those people, never get to live a life. It's horrible. It is. It's horrible. But, what I mean? There's a but there. And there's 360 million people in this country, and there's other countries that exist in the way they do because of we've changed things. So you can't just shit all that because of one guy makes a decision. Where was I going? So anyway, that was sort of a given. And we had seen that, we kind of figured, okay, it's gone. And I was at SHOT Show when that all came down. And it was like, whoa, that's crazy. And there was nothing. There was nothing. There was an NRA, there was a GOA, there was a Second Amendment Foundation. And I'll tell you, in 2013, nobody knew what Gun Owners of America was or Second Amendment Foundation was. Nobody. And if anybody tells you they did, they're lying. Because nobody paid attention to that shit. Nobody paid attention to that shit. We were in the end of the assault weapons ban, and all we were worried about is what we could buy. YouTube was turning into what it is today, and it was happening in front of everybody's eyes, and we had just won. We had just resisted. So anyway, that's when some of us were like, this isn't the rest of time. This isn't over. It's not like the credits roll and this is how the world, just freezes right here. Like, they're going to get mad that they lost and they're going to regroup and they're going to come back. And we could see that. And we're like, nobody saved us. We didn't have a big safety net that just exists and we can just depend on that forever, right? It's not like elevators can't crash to the ground, because they can't, right? There's systems in place that allow an elevator or don't allow an elevator to fall to the ground. Like, we don't have that in real life. That's just on certain mechanisms, right? And this isn't that kind of mechanism. So we knew, some of us suspected, I think, that, okay, we could wait around and hope that this all happens again. Or maybe, we can work towards resisting that or preventing that. And I think we had, pretty good chance of doing that. I mean, we had a lot of people who were aware and we had a lot of momentum and stuff. And we certainly had, it wasn't like we were talking to people who just lived through it. We were talking to people who just did it. Like, we were talking to the veterans of it. So it was on those ears, our message fell deaf, except to a couple of dozens of people, right? And it's not like we talked to everybody, obviously. We talked to some people. But anyway, so the people that were able to hear, it only resonated with certain. And then those people stuck with it for a while. And it either was too tough, it was too boring, they don't like the people, it's not dangerous anymore, there's nothing to worry about, I don't like that guy or girl, I wish we were doing it differently. And now it's what it is today, 7 years later, and it exists. It's a shadow. I mean, there's like 2 or 3 people, Kingpin and Dead Horse, sometimes will post something. Well, we'll usually post something. There used to be a couple of people here and there that would post a video occasionally, But I wish we could say that would, that you could get a number of people together to cause a resistance, but we don't have enough cookies. We need something flashy in order to attract people. And unfortunately, you need something bad to make people come out. So I think you got to look at Second Amendment stuff, or at least a practical way to look at Second Amendment stuff is that you're creating resource for whoever does want to use it. But looking for people is, I don't want to say it's an effort and frustration, but it's certainly different. It's like asking for volunteers to do something that nobody wants to do and doesn't seem like it's urgent. But if you don't expect everybody to be part of it, it's necessary. Like it's urgent and it needs to be a thing. Like I've been ever since 2015, and I went to Gun Rights Policy Conference and saw what could happen when those people get together once a year. I was like, this is ridiculous. This should be happening at least monthly at this level and daily on every other level. Like all the lower levels, local, county, area of interest, whatever, and then state level, all of that stuff should be constantly happening. And then there should be a system that reports it up so that there's some way to monitor or be aware of everything at a national level monthly. And as long as that's done in a transparent sort of open system, then literally a few people could all pitch in and you'd have a flawless system, just like it's sort of like the school system or something when there's a snow day. There's a snow day, but nobody has to not one, it all doesn't depend on one guy with a beard who has to tell you if it's a snow day or not. There's a whole system of stuff, and some guy can be sick and everyone will still know it's a snow day. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but we got to do something like that, I would think. And it's got to come from what you're talking about. So as much as I'm not going to try to give you false encouragement, I'll acknowledge that it's critical. We will not keep going if we expect somebody else to do what you're asking for us. That'll never happen. So it'll take someone like yourself to not listen to somebody like me and just do it, and then, fail or succeed, and then prove me wrong, and then we'll be in the next level.
No, if I can get the resources together to do it all, like I said, right now I'm doing everything off my phone, so I have to get a laptop and things like that. Just that way, I could host and whatnot. But
one phone call to somebody with a computer, and now you've got a computer as part of your resources. A second phone call to somebody with a microphone, and now you've got that in your resources. So don't wait forever. But yeah, I hear you. You don't want to plan forever, but you can't.
Because I've got a lot of free time on my hands. Other than taking care of my kids now, it's not a whole lot that I do. So I could definitely give it a go. Like I said, I just got to get everything together first. Because, what's the worst that happens is I give it a shot, it fails. Well, at least I tried.
Well, sure. I'm frustrated because we never win if everyone is satisfied with that. Does that make sense? But at the same time, I'm not going to tell you to not do it, but you don't want to just say, well, if I win, I win. If I don't, I don't, because then we never get anybody who really bites on and does it. So I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but when I have the attitude to do something, I want to do it and be successful. When I say, if I'm not, big whoop, it's basically, meaning if I'm not successful, well, I'm back at square one. It stinks that it didn't work, but I don't do things to try and half-ass them. I try and make whatever it is work, but I also...
I'm not talking about from your personal side of it. I guess it's from the community side. If we just have people with good intentions that fail, that aren't able to follow, they ain't able to get the key or figure it out, then we're just in a cycle. We're in a rut, I guess. So I don't know what to say. Like there's the concern, and then there's the willingness and the attempt to deal with the concern, but then you have that happen over and over and over, and now you've got a different situation, and it's difficult. You're not the first person to come up and say, here's some frustration, and in other words, this isn't the first conversation, so I don't want to be like, yep, because then what am I doing? Then I'm just the guy who's watching the pattern happen over and over and over. So that's why I feel like I need to not just say, yep, but at the same time, I'm not trying to shit on your shit either. It's necessary, important shit. You're not the first one to come up with it. And you know what I mean? I don't know how else to say it. Like it's something that needs to be did. Like somebody's got to go take this over this hill so that we can get to the next hill and fight it. It's not like, once we get figured out, we're done. Once we get figured out, the other, right now, Bloomberg is able to throw millions of dollars at us and screw us up completely. And then, the result of that is some people will go, oh, we need a billionaire to throw millions of dollars at. As soon as you get billionaires throwing millions of dollars at it, we have a whole different fight, right? So it's not going to win. That's just a different fight. So if we got Bloomberg throwing millions at it and we had all of us get up, in some sort of perfect robot, unison or droid, what's the word? Not droid, Borg, collective unison and fight, he's just going to throw more money and we're going to have a different fight. So no matter what we're talking about here, it's not the conclusion. It's just taking it to the next level. But I personally believe after looking at it for a long time that we'll be better off working at it at some level together. We're all in unison want the Second Amendment to stay protected. It's just that we don't have any level of unison beyond that. And that's not because we insist on not doing it. It's just that no one's ever presented the whole place with something that we could all catch on to. That would have been a good thing for the NRA. They just never did that, but it would have been a good thing. They would have been the one in a position to do it.
Speaking of the NRA, so any idea what's going on with them? I heard that they had that lawsuit against them, about a year ago, and I haven't heard much ever since.
Yeah, you don't hear much because there's just no reason for the news to pay attention to them or whatever, but it's all moving along. They're basically, the whole story from before. So they got the hole they're in, and then what's the result? They end up alienated a bunch of their membership who left. So they've got to, simultaneously, I guess, try to keep whatever membership isn't aware of what they've been doing, and then gain whatever new membership they can get out of who knows what they're getting now, right? Because all these people that are buying guns, never bought a gun before, think the NRA is still the NRA. So they're probably doing just fine, honestly. But, they've got a bunch of stuff to do, and at the same time, they're still getting whatever, like the consequences of all the shenanigans they've been pulling. So they're going to court and all that. So they're probably hemorrhaging money. And, at this time when they should be doing all kinds of stuff right now. And they're probably attempting to do some of that as far as like defense of Second Amendment or whatever. That's not really their task. It's one of their tasks that they took, but they had a position.
Keep blowing my email up.
It's one of their tasks that they took, but you mean with like join our thing or pay for this fight?
So how do we
join our thing or pay for this fight?
So how do we move a group like the GOA or Second Amendment Foundation into the status that the NRA had, or even still has?
Yeah, they're two different things. GOA was California's statewide attempt to remove handguns from the state, and a state representative who successfully resisted a California initiative saw that was going to become a federal initiative and went national. So that comes from a handgun prohibition resistance and then went to national. So is what it is. That's that national origin in like 1975. And then you've got Second Amendment Foundation, which was Alan Gottlieb in 1971, saw the Gun Owners Protection Act, not the Gun Owners Protection, yeah, the 68 Gun Owners Protection Act as an infringement. And because the other organizations were attacking in different ways, he created an education and then a lobbying organization to fight. So they've sort of got zones, right? They're coming at it from different angles and they're attacking in different ways. So some of it is lobbying, and most of the national level ones are lobbying to prevent laws from happening or lobbying to pass bills, right? So lobbying representatives to do something. So chatting them up or threatening them, right? Going and talking to human beings, bunch of unscrupulous representatives to whatever the hell you got, position you got about whatever, lobbyists. But then NRA has got all that since 1975, but they started in the 1800s teaching people how to shoot, organizing competitions. Because if you just teach people how to shoot, I don't know if you've ever paid attention on YouTube, but it's the grossest comedy of errors I've ever seen. People think that if you hold a gun in your hands and you don't drop it, you're somehow a competent master of that gun, which couldn't be farther from the truth. So it's like somehow if you went to the store and bought a fishing pole and then you watched a TV show and you saw a guy catch a fish and then you went to the lake. And that's pretty much what people do. They buy a thing, they watch somebody use it either like a master or successfully in front of them with a highly edited video where you only see the good parts. And it doesn't necessarily add up with what you see is what you get, you know? So you've got this highly edited thing that they use for quote unquote instruction. And then they go, you know, try to emulate that or mimic that at the range or whatever. So, damn, where are we going with the, you weren't asking about training. You were asking about
how we could bring up the GOA or Second Amendment Foundation to the same level as the NRA. And you're talking about the programs that the NRA used to do, well, still do.
I was going to say, because you see these people who do the craziest stuff on the line, and you know, because they think they know what they're doing. So when you start getting that with, you know, these other organizations try to do stuff, they're not going to do it well because they figured out how to do it or anything, or they invented the process, or they actually sat down, or they were in charge of the accumulation of knowledge or something. Like instead, they're just going to try to add that skill set to their pile. And I've seen at least one of the organizations attempt to do that. And I don't know. If you talk to some people, they'll say they were doing it because they're money hungry. And you talk to other organizations, or you talk to other people, you look at it from another angle. You know, if there's nothing and one organization is willing to try to create something for it, then at least it's being addressed. And I guess it really becomes like, let's say mental health. If an organization is out there lobbying and doing stuff, and then they add a section for mental health, is that because they're trying to get too, what's the word, like multitask too much? Are they trying to take too big a bite? Or is it because they see that there's something missing and they want to at least have something there? Like, so there's at least something at the table for that area. And I think the only way you can actually determine that is over time. And if another organization comes around that does a task better than that big organization with lots of tentacles, if that big organization retracts a tentacle and says, okay, thank you, now you take that over, you're doing it better than we ever could have, you know, we only had it here as a placeholder, you take over and now we'll send all support, like you're taking care of this. And then like that's a supportive, you know, useful organization. It's tough to know that stuff when they've just got a bunch of tentacles out there, if they've just got a lot of stuff out there, because it can definitely be perceived that they're trying to do too much. And I mean, I can describe a couple of them at this point. So what you're talking about is how do you get the GOA or the Second Amendment Foundation to the level of NRA? Never. Like the NRA's been around since 1800, so they'd have to exist 100 years more than they've existed. So it's 100 more years from today to even be near the NRA, and then the NRA would be 200 years old if it's still there, or even older. So, you know what I mean? Like it'll never actually get as old and matured as the NRA is. It'll never have that tradition or whatever. But then none of them are actually trying to do anything near what the NRA is trying to do. So I don't know if we need or want the same thing going forward all the time. Traditions are great, but you got to question them, right? I mean, horse and buggies were awesome, but it's not like we want to stick with them for the rest of the time. You know, TVs were cool, but I'm glad we moved past that.
I guess what I'm getting at is how do we get one of those organizations to have the political standing that the NRA has when anti-gunners hear, you know, GOA, they go, those damn GOA members, you know, and they're looking to take down the GOA instead of just the NRA.
Let me ask you another question to answer it. So are we better off with just one giant? Like, you know, are we better with the super friends, or we've got a bunch of capable, strong allies that have different like superpowers, like that go after different things? Are we better with that can team up when necessary? Or are we better off with, like, you know, just one big giant thing that isn't really a jack of all trades, it's just big? And that's the problem with NRA, I think, is that the reason, so you've got all the antis, the gun prohibitionists and the people that want to see the world burn, and the communists, people that hate guns, not because they actually fear guns, but because they understand that guns equal individual freedom. The idea that the individual is what lives on this planet, and that the individual, you know, that's the opposition to we are part of a state, and the state is what exists, and we're all part of that state. And that's what I think the big difference is. So are we better off with the gun prohibitionists having an NRA to use as the bad guy, as the, what is the word, like scarecrow, or what is it called, like the punching bag? Anybody else still out there? We got 4 people. That's cool. It looks like once you're already in, you just jump right back in. I don't have to let you in. So that's maybe a new feature they've got. I don't know if you're hearing me. So are we better off having like NRA as one big punching bag, or are we better off having, like, you know, a bunch of competent, smaller organizations that can work together when needed? And I don't even mean to fit together like Voltron. I just want them to fight from the same angle. You know, I want them to still do their own things as individuals, because I really think as a politician, or from the politician's end, we give them too much, I'm going to use the word ammunition, when we let them have an NRA. Because NRA's over there trying to teach us how to shoot. They're trying to teach our kids how to be safe. They're trying to teach instructors. They're trying to build ranges. They're trying to have 3 museums. You know, they're trying to be the old grandpa, the hip young sister or aunt. You know, they're trying to be the cool urban whatever that they don't know, because it's awkward, because they're mostly, you know, came from a bunch of hunters and shit. And of course, they're trying to keep hunters who, you know, can you imagine trying to talk to hunters nowadays? It's like you either got to be like, hey, hunter, are you willing to come over here? Come over here, follow breadcrumbs and come over here. Or else you got to be like, hey, hunter, even though you hate all these people, you know, you got to work with all these people. Because I can't imagine hunters. They don't ever come to the table and say, oh, yeah, we're hunters for 2A. Like, where do you see that? So the NRA's got this crazy pile of stuff to have to deal with. Like, I don't want another organization that replaces that. And I think that because the politicians all say NRA, they give NRA sort of this big head. They think that they're so good. And then they also have that big burden on their back. They're like, shit, we kind of also have to make, you know, we have to do this. Like, we're either doing it or we're failing, but, you know, we're being tasked with this. So I don't care about them having the burden as much as if they don't carry the burden, like they haven't, then they make us all look bad. And it isn't that we're bad. It's just that the media is asking more of the NRA than it can do. And it tried and it failed. And now we all, you know, it's assuming that we're all like, you know, it's taken the spin that we're all like that. Anyway, if that makes sense, I don't think we want to replace the NRA. I think personally, I'd rather see, you know, 5 or 6 competent, a number necessary of competent organizations that all go out there. So they're scared shitless. So the gun prohibitionists don't know who's going to come at them for doing what, if they're, you know, for being wrong.
honestly, what I'd like to see is each state program come together and make one national network, where that way, like when the things were happening with the NRA and people are jumping ship and things like that, and the left's going, all right, we got them on the ropes, let's knock them down and drive the stake through the heart. uh it's kind of scary to think about, if that does happen, um that one entity that could be there to protect us ends up gone, as opposed to, if each state group were, whether it's the presidents of those groups that get together and have chats like this on a weekly basis or a monthly basis and say, this is what's going on in my state, this is what is going on at a national level, and then out of that group, or out of all 50 states, there's a group that's appointed to dealing with the politicians and everything at the national level. That way, if one topples, we still have 49 more, while another's rebuilding itself.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think that would work if we were more like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that has less minutia to it, like if we were just skiers or something. But there's probably all kinds of stuff with snowboarders I don't know in there. But I'm just thinking that, yeah, it's just that I can't think of anything really where we have just one organization because we all start bickering. I guess with something important, we could all get behind something, I guess. But no, that would, I don't know. I don't know if you'd, because there's all a bunch of regular or disorganized, non affiliated or allied state level things at this point. And, it's not like there's the National Guard and you're the Arizona division and you're the Arkansas division. That would be a hierarchy that would work together like that, But if there's 6 old guys in Arizona, because that's what it is in Arizona, and in I don't know, Georgia, I think it's like way more, like it's dozens of people. And then you get to like Ohio, where, I mean, they've been working 2A in Ohio, and it's like there's pilots and there's lawyers and there's doctors. In Arizona, as far as I know, it's like just a bunch of old retired guys. And if any of them are lawyers or anything like that, they never bring it up. But we're talking like heads of organizations and stuff in some of these other states. So they're just so different. And then there's states that, I don't want to say nothing. Let's just say there's states that their state level organization, if you hung out with them overnight, if you hung out, partied with them, you might come away with a different impression of them than from the business card, meeting them on the street type of thing. You know what I mean? And just because somebody's, what's the word? You know what I mean? Just because we're friends doesn't mean you're the best fit for what we need done, right? You're not the best guy for the job just because you're on the right side. That makes sense?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I hear you. I mean, that's something that I definitely worked towards in like the 2016 timeframe. I was really trying to figure out how to do that. And then for a while, I tried to do it in spite of everybody, just do it. Like I figured, well, what the hell? What if we just tried it? And then like before everybody knew it, it would just be there, and then nobody would bitch because they, you know what I mean? Sometimes people just won't do something because it's different. So it's like, well, what if you just didn't really tell them? You just did it. I tried figuring out stuff like that, like just sort of, oh, now you're shaking hands. Do you know, what? Maybe you could work together. And, obviously that didn't work out completely, but doesn't not work either. And then the other problem is, while there are, I think of some of these states, like Ohio is one, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, some of these states have like long traditions of fighting for Second Amendment. And then I don't even know if other states have stuff, but I know that the ones I do know of are like years old. And it's probably, these states like that are north and in the middle, states that don't have any population. It's probably just because nobody's ever bothered their guns. And there's only 12 people there, and they just didn't ever need to do anything. And their 12 voices were never like sought out. No one ever begged them for their 12 voices or whatever, you know what I mean? So they probably just came to the table because the table's open to everybody now, but they've never been like active or something. So some of the states do have the level we're talking about, but they're literally just a few guys who've been in it for a couple of years. And since they have like no fights, they're just not experienced. They're more than willing. They're just not battle hardened or experienced, So they're kind of, they are what they are. They're not useless. It's just that they're not, somebody coming from California who's, knows just a ton of skill set and is battle hardened and is still got the mindset. I mean, that's just something you can't pay for that person. What we're talking about, though, also requires time and it requires tech. And those things, time we're losing all the time, I guess. But things change. I mean, heck, this is a crazy whiteboard that keeps getting erased and redrawn in different ways. So I don't want to say we're at we could just as easily be at the end of something as we are at the beginning of something. Let's put it that way. More than likely, we are at the end of something and we're at the beginning of something. It's just that, how grandiose the end or the beginning might be. It's kind of, at some end our creation and at some end, unknown. But we can certainly work towards, something that comes out to our advantage or whatever going forward. But anyway, so some of this stuff we can talk about it day and night, but implementing it, getting to happen is one thing. So what I'm going to hope to do is look the other way. I've been wanting to do this for a while, is like backwards engineer it. Start with, world with no NFA. And how did we get here? What steps did we have to take? Like, who did we have to win over? There's just some assumptions that I think one of the options is to look at assumptions and challenge those. If you look at it as the big game and not the individual battles, the real problem is that people think guns can explode cars probably. Like, people really don't understand guns. And doctors who, let's say that they deal with a car accident once in a while and then a gunshot is really crazy to them and they don't know what's going on and all of a sudden there's this gunshot. That's a different doctor than a doctor, I don't know, who deals with gunshots every night. They probably can put a gunshot in a better perspective to an automobile accident than a doctor who never sees a gunshot and it's sort of scary for them and it implies violence and they're not used to that. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's just that, some of those things that need to be explored, I guess. We definitely don't have anybody in here anymore. And if they are, they're just being weird trolls. They watch Clover's show, Porking Us, and then are just practicing their troll techniques. I think that's what Clover's show is, how to do the troll.
I was going to ask you if you ever wonder when you got, 4 or 5 people just still watching, if they're just people that fell asleep and now they still got it streaming on their phone or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's people that are on their phones at work or something, and they're listening through like a cord, or maybe they're in detention or something, and they can only listen, so they're just listening more than likely. There's probably a couple of people where they're trying to get them out of a coma, so if they listen to something that makes them angry, and it's just like an audio version of smelling salts, they put that out there for that. That's one of the reasons I do the show, keep people up out of comas. But no, now we're saying shit. We're basically taunting them, and they don't even answer. So they're probably all dead asleep.
Going back a second, when you had talked about every second matters, because I just made a video on it, 2 days ago, 3 days ago. I don't remember the date of what today is, but I remember back in the day there used to be T-shirts and stuff. Is anybody still making those?
So when we made Every Second Matters originally, it was, like I say, it's just a bunch of people that have been chatting a lot, and we were aware that we just won something that was not a given, right? And we knew that that was done through grassroots. And we're like, how do we encourage this? Like, how do we keep this going? How do we keep the whatever going, the momentum going? And that's when we came up with this idea. So at the time, there was nothing really else to model it after, except for I kind of think of it as Pink Pistols, the group that started in 2000 for LGBT gay or whatever they're called. So in 2000, somebody wrote an article and said that gays should have guns, and some guy's like, okay, and then he made Pink Pistols, which is basically a website, and it was, are you kidding me? You can't even look at this. And it was, you know, if you want to consider yourself Pink Pistols, then you're Pink Pistols. If you don't want to tell anybody about it, then that's your right too. So that was it. There was nothing to it. So I was like, you know what? I like that because at least when we were all chatting it up, that was my whatever part of it. Like my angle on it was that, hey, if we make it another organization, then you know, it's just another thing people have to deal with or whatever. Like something you got to join, and then you got to have members and presidents, all that stupid shit, and there's money, and it's just dumb, and you have to have a website, and then people bicker, and it just seems stupid. So, you know, to add that, we already had stuff like that. We didn't need more of that, and that was my angle of it. Was, dang it, I'm trying to talk and find these pictures at the same time. Was that you know, we would just do it as like this awareness thing. But what was your question? How did
I know there was T-shirts made at one time. I was just wondering if they still are.
We just wanted it to be like an unorganized thing. So I think first Quark, the guy who invented corking, like corking everybody, he started a Spreadshirt that had it, and it just was, you know, like on these made to order places, it's just, you know, if the shirt costs $12, you can put like a $5 markup, you can put a $10 markup, you can put a $2 markup. So whatever the price of the shirt was, he just left it at that. So he just made a print on order type of thing and left it at whatever price the actual product costs without any markup. And then people could buy shirts that way, and nobody was making anything. You could buy a shirt if you wanted it. And then those were just black and white ones. And at the beginning, Yankee really wanted it to be just black and white because it's a black and white issue. But pretty much everybody else wanted it to be in different colors because they didn't want just only black and white, right? They wanted pink or red or stupid colors. So that was like a big debate. Do you make it so that, because on those places, you can make it where the shirt is a color, or you can make it where you just pick your color, like it's up to the customer. And anyway, so that was the first version of the shirts, and I don't even know if that's still there or not. And then Quark is Quark, so like I said, I don't remember if that's even still there or not. So then I put one up similar on my Spreadshirt, and I'm pretty sure I let you pick whatever color you want. And then, so yeah, that's how you get it. Long story short, you go to gun gear websites, go to the shirt part, and then they're there. That's it. You wear it if you want. So we didn't want to make it where like you gotta buy a shirt, obviously, because nobody's gonna give you a shirt for nothing. But we didn't want to make it where like, you know, there's some kind of fees or some sort of cost to do it, or some sort of fundraisers or anything like that, because it's not the point. The point is just like, you know, if you feel like paying attention to the Second Amendment, do it on the second. And if you want to share it, share it. Did Quark move to Mexico to escape the bill collector? I don't know. We just assume when people left gun channels that they died. We had no other way to do anything, so that's what we always assumed. I wonder why I didn't think it would be this difficult to get a picture of this place. It's driving me nuts. Now I was like, oh, I'm not going to dig out my pictures because I'll just go find one off the internet, and I can't find it. The patches, though, are different because patches, you can't do print on demand. So print on demand shirts are pretty easy. You just set the thing up with the design, and then, like I just said, if you want it, order it the size you want and the color, and then you have it. And the ones that we have set up are made in Henderson, Nevada. So even though it's a French company, they quit making the ones in the United States in France a long time ago. They started making them in Henderson, and they've been pretty decent. So you're employing some people in Nevada at least. So the patches, though, we have to order. And the way patches work is you got to pay for the amount of stuff and then the amount of time it takes to make it. So if it's intricate or complicated, you know, it might take more actual time to make each one, and that'll eventually add up if you get a bunch of them. And even if that's just a machine, you know, if it takes a machine 1 minute to make your patch, or if it takes your machine 10 minutes to make your patch, that makes a big difference to that factory, right? So there's those considerations, and then depending on how big it ends up being at the end of it all, there's weight. So quantity and size equals weight, and quantity and size equals time. And I guess you could say quantity and size also equals materials. So you're going to pay for those three factors when you do a product like a patch or something. And that's why it's difficult. At least I don't tell people, you know, if you want to buy 100 patches, it costs $100. Or if you want to buy 100 patches, it costs $400, because it can be determined by multiple things. If you buy 100 little patches, it's different than if you buy 100 big patches that are complicated, right? So anyway, the Every Second Matters patches needed to be bought. So I think we have, I don't know how many we've done now, 7 or 8 even. I haven't thought about it in a while, but we've done multiple runs. And for a while there, between Every Second Matters and gun channels, I would experiment with either different manufacturers, like different places that printed them or made them, and then different platforms for collecting either fundraising or money. So we tried to evaluate different crowdfunding platforms as we were creating the projects, and then, well, anything else we could come up with. So if there was a different PayPal or something, we would try that. So I know that for sure. Oh man, I'm trying to think. Is it the first PVC Every Second Matters we did on a pro gun crowdfunding platform? So that's why I know it is possible. There's been 2 pro gun crowdfunding platforms, and they were from people that wanted to build a gun item, but like Kickstarter won't let you do a gun, and like Indiegogo won't let you make a gun. So they made gun crowdfunding platforms, and we used one. The other one never actually got built. It was just trying to get built. But we used the first one for one of the Every Second Matters batches, I think. But Every Second Matters have always been either a crowdfunding project like that, or I don't think it has always been. I was going to say, or part Pink. I don't think Pink ever bought Every Second Matters one. So a couple of times I went to buy a batch of Every Second Matters, and a couple of people will go in and buy like a bunch, and then they just own a lot of them, and then they let me buy them cheaper, and then that way everybody wins, because the quantity goes up, and usually the price per goes down, and then you distribute the price amongst 2 people or per patches or whatever. So anyway, the prices end up going down as you buy way more. So that always helps. But otherwise, the Every Second Matters patches are definitely limited. I'll probably never make them again. So because of that, because you have to buy just hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth, and they're not like a money maker. They're not a seller or anything. Nobody knows what they are unless you know what they are. And again, it's not a campaign that's designed to get everybody about that or behind it. It's not like it'll save the Second Amendment or anything. It was just supposed to be a way for people that are motivated to tether themselves, without having to align with something like a bunch of, you don't have to have any. You can like shotguns, or you can like machine guns. You can like the Second Amendment, or you can like guns. There's no need to align yourself with anything for Every Second Matters. Stand
Yeah,
by.
just about awareness.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea of spreading awareness, like anybody can go, oh, I like the Second Amendment, but it takes liking the Second Amendment and then talking about it a little bit, And if you've got a channel, that's even better. But if you just are talking to people in regular life, like at a gun shop, think about it. I don't know how people don't think about this. Like, I've hung around at gun shops for I don't know how many years, and then somebody would walk in, and let's say, we're talking a small shop, 400 guns, 1,000 square feet or something, not a huge shop or anything. Somebody will walk in, and I imagine this would be the same in a larger shop, assuming you could hear what people are saying in the shop. But let's say there's 3 or 4 customers and 2 or 3 employees or something, and then somebody will walk in and say something weird or funny or whatever. They'll say something, and if they're not trying to hide what they're saying, if they're not whispering it, everybody's going to hear it, right? You're in a small store. And then either they're there, they stay there, or they leave. but one way or the other, you've been in that situation to some extreme, right? Where somebody comes in and says something, and now everybody in the shop hears it, and now it was a joke and everybody's laughing. It was something important and everybody's like concerned, you know, whatever. Like those kind of things happen. And that's what it's all about. Like talking about the Second Amendment in front of people like that is 1,000 times different than a politician giving it lip service, is 1,000,000,000 times different than some bullshit. Somebody who spends their life trying to make you buy this or that, trying to manipulate you into deciding their opinion matters when you buy this or that, and then them telling you about how they virtue signal, you know, something that's in the news right now. Versus when you go to a gun shop and some guy out of nowhere says, "Oh, I think that's, you know, like blah blah blah. They're not shooters. We're shooters. They're murderers." You know what? Why do I say that? Like I say it online because when I go to gun shops and say that, when I say that in real life at a gun show, people look at me and I can see the fucking math happening in their brains. When a human being looks at me after I've said, "We're shooters, we go shooting on weekends," that's a murderer, and I interrupt somebody and say that, I can see people turn their heads at me as if to go, "Oh, that was rude. Oh, wait a minute." So that's important, right? We got to have these conversations. And if the second, it's like changing batteries on your red dots. There's probably people that bought some Chinese piece of shit and don't even think about changing batteries on it because it seems to work every time they use it. And then there's people that have turned on, you know, needed to use their shit and it wasn't there. So on their birthdays, they changed their dots or their lights on their red dots, even though they don't need to. It's one of those kind of things. It's like, you just gotta get it in the habit or something, or like get in the habit until you hit that spot where you don't need to have it in the habit anymore. You know, like where for some reason you figure it out and you're like, "Oh, okay, it's worth doing this all the time." And yeah, then we'll be at that point where people got guns in their car and nobody cares anymore. And then that's when we've won for a while. Yeah, make a limited run of 5 patches. A 5-patch run would cost like $400. I don't know, I have to ask Angelina, but I'm thinking if I asked for 1 patch, they'd probably tell me they want like $60 for it, or $55 or something for it. And then they'd ship it, and they would ship it for $20 or $50 or something. So they'd want you to at least buy a couple, because they're going to have to go through the exact same work to make 1 as they would to make 10 or 5 or 100. So they're never, I mean, my places, I've never gotten a place to make 1, not a PVC patch. It's just way too much work. Because they've got like, you know, departments, and it would take the same amount of time in their department as it would to make a whole bunch of other ones. So I guess depending on how they charge you for that time, they'd either, you know, charge you a heck of a lot for setup, or like shipping, or both, or just tell you no. They tell me no. Well, I've never actually asked them. I think I've asked them for 25 before, and they told me no. And they don't really like it when I try to do 100. They really like bigger orders than that. But nah, I don't know. Good guy. He's a nice guy and everything, but hasn't been around in a while. I don't think I'm making any good guy patches. I don't know if you even remember who Good Guy was. Barbecue.
I can't say I do.
You've been. That's how I'm going to make a graphic novel at some point. To I was talking about it with that analogy the other day of being in a bar and watching a bunch of people come and go. That's sort of what Gun Channels was like for imagine a bunch of people were in that bar watching people come and go through Gun Channels. And I think that'll be a pretty interesting, what's the word? Like analogy? I don't know what the word is, but like microcosm or something of the gun community. We didn't have everybody come in there, but we certainly had a bunch of different people come in there and interact with each other. That's the good part. Like anybody, you can go to a gun show and you can be in the same room with a bunch of different kind of gun people, but you never talk to each other. Like you have nothing to do with each other. You might acknowledge this, but more than likely you walk in the door, you turn left or right, you do your pattern through the tables. Maybe you meet somebody else there and talk to them when you're out of there. Very few people gather and bullshit and explore and talk to people out of the, stop people they don't know and talk, where Gun Channels was all about that. Like Gun Channels was a giant conversation that encouraged people to just jump in and be part of it. And often you'd figure out afterwards, like, oh shit, I was talking to somebody who's totally different, interest than I'd have. And that would, it was interesting. But there's interesting stories. I'll never remember all of them, but I think overall we can use it as an example of, I don't know, sort of the ways that the community and talk together, I guess. Mickey saying, I love Gun Channel's earliest days. It was a lot of cool people. I don't know. I kind of like Gun Channel. Oh, there's different parts for sure. There, you see, you're dealing with different things. When I'm thinking of the beginning, I think of just the horrible $1 a month stuff. That $1 a month stuff was horrible. It was just so tedious to deal with. I don't know how long it was. Way too long. More than a year. And having a bunch of people charge $1 a month on PayPal was just insane. So I literally was spending hours on paperwork, just hours figuring out what the hell was going on with PayPal all the time. And I'm trying to even remember, I didn't have much time to really chat as much as build the place. So I don't know. There was a bunch of people from YouTube back then too. And since we hadn't really figured out what was going on, it wasn't creators. It was just people that were watching stuff. And I had more fun talking to people that create videos. I'd rather talk nuts and bolts most of the time than, you know, I don't give a shit about, you know, the gadgets and the guns hardly anymore. Not the new 9mm Wonder 9s or none of that shit. So, or buying the new next type of shotgun or whatever. I'd rather talk about building your gun channel on YouTube than the shotgun you're going to shoot on it. And it took a while before gun channels was anywhere near that kind of people. Really. At least the majority. Actually, I don't know if it ever got to be a majority. It got to be a majority of people that were talking on there were people that had channels. But I think in the beginning, it was mostly people that only watched channels. They never actually, you know, made videos or anything. DB, he's an interesting guy. All right, well, so now we're just sitting here chatting about stuff, very slow pace. That's got to be super boring. And it's 2:30. I don't know if y'all know, but for me, this is like, it's not really noon anymore. But it could be. I guess you could say this is my noon. So I got all kinds of stuff I still need to do for the day. This is my working time. Let's see what temperature it is now. We started the show and it was 93. I can already tell it's better than 93 now. I don't know how bad it is over by him because Enrique lives where there's more concrete than I do. So he might actually have it harder than me. Here we go. A lot more. So it's 89. Well, it feels a lot cooler than 89. And it's going to get, damn, it's only going to get to 80 now. But it's definitely cooler than it was. Oh no, this says it's going to get to 78. Maybe this will be 78. So anyway, or no, this is the weekly. No, this is the daily. Anyway, it's definitely cooler than when we started this whole thing. And none of y'all are saying anything, so I'm going to wrap it up and get back to doing some other work here. Thanks all for jumping in, though. It's good to chat. And again, Barbecue for keeping it going. I did get one thing accomplished in addition. Got the drawing for the Autry Center, which I've been waiting to do. I think we've chatted about firearms museums to death, but that's pretty much all I've been working on is exploring those collections more and sprucing up that site over there. So next I'll have to dig into that. I've pretty much decided I'm going to rewrite or reformat the museum guide to be just the ones I've visited. And then I'll do a second one with the ones I have not yet visited, even though that's not necessarily the perfect way to divide the list. I don't care. I'm not trying to make the best book out there. I suspect that Army book is going to end up being the best book for what I was thinking at first. So anyway, I got a couple other things I'll be working on. And what is today? Is today Thursday already? Holy shit. So tomorrow's Friday and we're basically out of business. So I could definitely appreciate anybody wants to buy something over at the store. This would be a good week. We got those free cheap ass knives. I guess I probably should spend the rest of today getting ready for Free Patch Friday, but I don't know. So with that, I guess I'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody for jumping in, and those of you that chatted. Okay, G, Pants, Oops, Pants, Patriot, Erst, Barbecue. Bob was barely in here. He was there. And then DTP. So feel free to jump in. I drop links, and we'll be back to pick up later. Thanks, Barbecue, for jumping in.
Hey, thanks for the link.
You bet. And so, yeah.